질문이 있으신 분은 손을 들어주시기 바랍니다. 2층부터 시작하겠습니다. There's a lady.
사람이 뉴욕에서 그죠?
Let's see if we can make this work. Don't be shy. I would point at someone to select someone to ask a question, but I can't see it.
Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's a big honor for us to have you. I have a question about the securities tokens offering, STO.
Yes.
What is the future? How do you feel about it, this?
Honestly, I think it's a bit boring. Listen, I think SDOs are an answer to a very simple problem, which is how do we do crowdfunding while violating the securities laws but not going to jail? And that's not a very good reason for the development of the technology. I think SDOs are likely to bring a small improvement on the issuance of securities compared to traditional stock markets. But that to me is not revolutionary. I think what's revolutionary about the possibility of crowdfunding in the future is opening a completely global pool of investors to a completely global pool of startups and investments without barriers. I think the opportunities that were started with ICOs lead to a future where the availability of capital and the availability of investments are made available to billions of people who don't have access to those things. And as far as I understand it, STOs don't do that. STOs are the simulation of the existing system, only now on blockchain. And that's not very exciting to me. Thank you. Let's see if we can get a couple more questions before I run out of time.
다음 질문 받겠습니다. Shall we move on to the first floor? There's a lady.
Yeah, please, let's move on to the first floor if there's no one else in the back.
The lady with the glasses.
Hello, Andreas.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. You said that at some point we will reach, this parity where, blockchain technologies is the same as good as old technology. So what is your prediction? Is it going to be 2021, 2022? We've been speaking about it for years. So what's exactly the point in time?
Well, I don't think it happens at one point in time in every category. I think what we do is we see different areas of this technology achieving parity before others, right? And I think one of the things is we have to be ready for surprises. When for example, in 2017, we had this explosion of ICOs, nobody expected that the first application to be disrupted in this space was venture capital itself. The most surprised were the venture capitalists who were like, hang on, did you just replace us? This isn't fair. And so we heard a lot of we heard a lot of bad things about ICOs, but it was an example of changing the fundamental nature of crowdfunding and not only achieving parity, but exceeding the capabilities of traditional crowdfunding. And I think we're going to continue to see that happen in different areas of this technology. There isn't one moment when it happens across the board. I'm very excited about the development of second layer technologies like the Lightning Network, Raiden, Plasma, and things like that, because I think we're going to see that impact the ability to do payments and reach parity with traditional payment systems, and that happens soon, much sooner than people expect. All right, let's see if we have time for one more question, perhaps? Over there? Yes, thank you.
Hi, Steve from Blocktail Capital. So I missed actually the first half of your talk, so maybe you might have covered. But when you talk about adoption in South Korea, which is quite different cases compared to Argentina case. But everyone is interested in crypto adoption right now. So and then I think South Korea is good foundation for retail adoption. So, because you mentioned the international cross-border trade or microfinance, e-commerce are the one that Korea might be a good fit. But in terms of retail adoption, what's your view? Or do you think this adoption is happening for this more e-commerce or those things you mentioned, or you don't think that retail adoption in more daily life use cases?
I think there's a very big challenge with retail adoption in the physical space, meaning that in order to have retail adoption in the physical space, you need a concentration of vendors who accept crypto, as well as a concentration of buyers who have crypto and are willing to spend crypto, who coexist in the same geography. And that's very difficult to do. We've seen that happen only in a few locations around the world where they've made efforts to convert, let's say, a neighborhood or a city center so that almost every shop you go to accepts crypto, and it attracts a lot of people who are interested. That's not really a good model. I think the place where we're going to see retail adoption of cryptocurrencies, in fact, where we're seeing it already, is e-commerce online. Because then the ability to find sellers and buyers and bring them together is a lot easier than it is in the physical space. So that's where I think we're going to see retail adoption. Now, there's an interesting situation that's happened in the United States, which is people see that the retail adoption has dropped dramatically. And not many people talk about some of the reasons that that's happened. But at least in the United States, the way that the capital gains taxing is implemented on cryptocurrency, you have to record every purchase for every cup of coffee based on the cost basis as if you're spending equity or bonds or some other capital asset. And that creates an enormous burden on accounting, which has killed retail adoption. Whether you're a merchant or a buyer, the accounting burden on doing cryptocurrency transactions is so much higher than any other form of currency that it's almost impossible to do retail transactions. It costs me more in accounting than I make from selling things if I do that. And so most retail adoption died in the United States because of that tax regime. Now, some people who are perhaps a bit cynical and paranoid may think that that was exactly the intention of the IRS, and they succeeded. By passing that law, they killed retail adoption. I don't know how it works in places where you don't have that kind of capital gains regime. I'd like to learn more about it. Retail is hard, and it's not going to be one of the first applications we see in crypto. All right. No more time for me.